Do you guys think there's any characteristics about yourselves that make you unattractive to men, the same way that you find certain guys so unattractive to you?
Yes.
Okay. And what would you think those characteristics are?
I think I threaten men because I'm just very independent and I'm very successful and I don't really need to rely on anybody else or just even bother with your presence because I am so well established on my own.
Yeah, it's Donna back at it with another little clip from this Fresh and Fit podcast. And these girls that they're talking to, right before this, they were asking them what are turnoffs as far as like when you're looking to date a guy or be in a relationship, whatever the case may be. What are some things that turn you off? And they easily could go through a list of things they didn't like about men. And so he turns this around and asks, okay, what do you think some of your turnoffs may be, like for a guy that's looking to date you? And this is the answer. And I hear this so often. I hear this a lot from women. How all men are intimidated. Their success is, intimidates these men. That may be true. I mean, I'm not saying that isn't true some of the time, but I just wonder why, like, who is telling these women that this is what's going on? And the way I see it is, well, these girls are young. They're early 20s, or if not, like 20 years old, so barely grown. And so I'm thinking they probably have never pondered this to begin with. They've never sat and thought, like, what am I doing or what could I be doing that men don't like. They just know they're pretty. They have great bodies. And then they think their money, their success, quote unquote, and we'll get to that, adds this so much value to them. In a sense that it would just intimidate the men around them. So if they're not getting dates, or if there are guys they can tell don't want to date them or don't want to fool with them, or approaching them, whatever the case may be, this is the conclusion that they've came to justify this. You see, so so their shortcomings are literally compliments.
And what is your job?
I work on OnlyFans
Okay.
and I'm a model.
If there is any reason a guy would find you undesirable, it's because of your entitled personality and, more likely, because you are showing pictures of your ass for $10 a month on OnlyFans. Actually, from what she shows on Twitter and Instagram, I don't see why you would even need to pay the $10.
Okay, that was one man's perspective, and I'll link his video in the description. But let's just assume when we're talking about this sort of thing, whether it's the smile beautiful thing or dating in any sense like this, or submitting to a man, whatever the case may be, let's just assume, just so we don't branch off into all these other arguments about how he doesn't deserve respect or he has to be a stand-up guy. Let's just assume it is a stand-up guy, not a guy that you would want to be with for years or marry. A guy that you would choose and think has good values, good qualities, all the way around, makes a lot of money. Let's say he makes more money than you. That way, in this case, when we're talking about the money situation, there's no outliers. Like, because I guess if a man is making a lot less than you, maybe then he would be intimidated if he's kind of lower status, lower caliber. But typically, when you're young and you're dating like this, you're going to be going for the guys that are on your level anyway. So they would be doing a little better than you financially. Not all the time, but a man that is doing better than you financially is not looking at your money at all. At all. Like, it's good that you're driven and motivated because that shows them that, once you're in the home together and you're in a long-term relationship, you'll be motivated to do other things. Nobody wants a lazy person to be with regardless of the sex. But I'm going to bring up real quick another discussion they were having about the money situation. And they were saying if they started dating a guy that was making like $50,000 a year, they would eventually want him to move up and make $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 a year. And see, a man doesn't look at it like that. a man, again, that is financially set, already has that mindset that he's going to have to be the sole provider of his family. Like, it might be a bonus to have a woman making money too if he marries a woman that has a good career or, business, whatever. But he's not going into that relationship thinking, I hope, she can get this 50,000 a year up to 100 or 200,000 one day, because otherwise I don't know if I can stay with her. No man is thinking like that. We're so different on every level, in every scenario. We think differently. So I think back to when I was in the military. I mean, it wasn't like I was making money, not the kind of money these girls are making, of course, but like, I never thought like this, so I don't really understand where it's coming from. Maybe I wasn't successful enough to understand this mindset of this, like, independent sort of career-driven woman mindset. But no, I never ever thought like this. Like, the men that I dated, they were already on my level. So I think what happens is, I think these women spend so long working on their careers, and they put so much time, energy, and effort into this, that to them, it does have a lot of value. I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't. Of course it does. But they just assume to everyone else it does as well. And to a man's perspective that's looking for a long-term relationship, a marriage. And I remember this mindset very well, because I remember when I stopped working initially, after I was married, I had my first child, my daughter, and I worked for a while after I had her. But like, when I was home and I was still thinking, okay, I need to finish school, I need to do this, that. And when somebody asked, what do you do? I wasn't proud to say, like, I'm staying at home, raising my own child so somebody else doesn't have to do that for me. I'm a wife, I take care of home, it's just like, I'm so proud of that. No, I was like always thinking I had to do something more, something better, quote unquote. Like, oh, I'm going to finish school, I'm going to do this, I'm doing that, I'm working on this. And then after I had my second child, and then a third, I guess I matured a lot through these years as well. But I realized society has placed on us this burden that women weren't necessarily meant to carry. We should feel proud to do the duties that we do at home. It doesn't mean every woman has to do this or needs to do this necessarily. But yeah, I think the media, our culture, society, they really have conditioned us as women to believe that that's something to be proud of. A paper you can hold in your hand and say you spent, all these years in college. And some women do it. Like, I'm not saying it's not possible. You can't have it all thing. You can't, but then you can have. Okay, it's hard to explain, because my doctor, for instance, she has like 9 kids, and obviously she's a doctor, so she was able to do that. I have a friend that's like what's the next thing under a doctor? But a nurse practitioner. Yeah, that's it. And she has like 5 kids. I had my midwife had like 9 kids too. So you can have it all, but you're going to have to make sacrifices somewhere. Well, you're going to have somebody else with your kids if you're not with them all the time because you're studying or you're working, that sort of thing. So it's a choice, sure, but society has made us to believe that you can't just have kids and just be doing that. You got to feel proud, to have ambition, and to have all of this success. You need to have a career, a diploma, something like that in your hand. So I say all of this to say, what happens to women because of society, because of how hard they've worked to accomplish what they have, and because it's so valuable to them, they expect it to be so valuable to everyone else. And it not only hardens them in a way that makes them more masculine to have to go out into the world and compete like this, but yeah, the expectations that come with that. And so these are young women, so they still have time to realize this. But some women go their whole lives, under this delusional or denial, and they won't change anything. They won't soften themselves in any sort of way. They assume it's the men that are intimidated by them. Instead of pondering all of this and trying to figure out, what is it? If I'm so beautiful, if I have such a banging body and money and all of this, why would a man not even want to be with me? Like, what's that about? So it's a good idea to ponder that now while you're young, instead of waiting. I never pondered this, by the way. So I'm not necessarily condemning them. I was lucky enough to just find a good guy that I matched up with enough, and we were able to, commit to one another and have a family and all of that. But yeah, if I had had trouble through the years, I would eventually have to sit down and figure that out. So not only do men not necessarily care about your career, what these women don't understand is they don't want a promiscuous woman as well. No man wants to commit to, what is the saying? You can't make a hoe into a housewife. I mean, I guess you could, but no man wants to try to, be Captain Save-A-Hoe. And look, I get it. Like, men should have standards too. Absolutely. You don't want a man that's going out cheating and hoeing around and doing all that trash, because it really does show that he doesn't value his own self. This shows that you have values when you treat this as a precious commodity. It is still going to be different for men. It just is. We're just completely made different. We're internal beings and they are external. So my point is, though, a good man, a good solid man that you would want to make your husband and you would want to have a family with one day, doesn't want a girl that's on OnlyFans. I want to take this a step back, and because I said I never pondered this, while I was dating, but through the years, I've been with my husband for 14 years, so through these years, and I'm still actively learning, and it's like a constant evolution, just like anyone who's trying to better themselves. Now we have to ask, why though? Why are women unwilling to ponder this question honestly with themselves, instead of giving themselves some lie or like, oh, they're intimidated or this sort of thing? For me, thinking back when I was younger, well, see, I said I didn't ponder this, but now thinking about it, I think I didn't want to ponder it. Like, I just assumed I wasn't good enough for a certain caliber of guy, and that was that. I didn't want to think too deeply about it. So it's a self-esteem thing, and maybe that's why they won't ponder this realistically. And the self-esteem thing is really prevalent with so many women. For me, it was like in my teenage years, I went from dating the cheaters, the manipulators, the no good guys to, soldiers, cops, higher status. But when I say not good enough, I'm thinking like, oh, I couldn't go out and date a doctor or a lawyer, or you know what I mean? So the honesty thing, that goes back to what I was saying before about accountability. So many people don't want to take accountability and honestly look at these things. So there's that, and there's selfishness too. They're too selfish right now. They're young, so you can't really blame them, but they're too selfish to really care. So not just young women that are looking to date, and throughout your marriage, you will have to look at these things selflessly and be honest with yourself and accountable to become a better person, a better partner. And it really is hard. It's hard to listen to what it is that your husband or your boyfriend or a guy might want to critique you on. Because, I don't know, it just stings. It really does. It's like, I could be doing this better, that better. This is what annoys me. And it's hard. It's just so hard. It's like, crushes the ego sort of thing. But without doing that every once in a while and reflecting, well, you're just going to be stuck, stagnant, and you're either not going to find a guy or you're going to have constant conflict when you do. Most likely, the kind and caliber of man that these women, or that any women in general, would be flattered or impressed, that even want to take you seriously and want to date you seriously, more than a one night stand sort of deal. This sort of man, deep down, he's not intimidated because you wouldn't be impressed by him if that were the case. So I think this is just about being real with yourself, acknowledging where your faults are and what kind of woman these men want. And obviously being less selfish as well. But this aspect, and the thing is with the promiscuity culture that we have now, and this OnlyFans and selling your body, these women aren't going to want to wake up anytime soon, because they're not just because they're conditioned to believe this sort of thing and they don't want to come out of that mindset and the whole self-esteem thing as well. But there's financial incentive for them to maintain this belief system. And I want to clarify something, because when I say you can't turn a hoe into a housewife, or no man wants to do that, a lot of people are forgiving when it comes to your past. Nowadays, they really are, because, we all grow up in different situations and circumstances and whatnot, and we haven't always had the self-esteem and the confidence that we have now, but no one wants to take that on like an active hoe situation, basically. They want it to be in your past, if they accept that at all. Okay, so they want you to at least change or alter your beliefs on this. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up because it's getting entirely too long. Y'all have a blessed day.